What is the state of modern conservatism in America?
They're demon rats.
No, he's a rhino.
Is it strong and reliable, capable of preserving our constitutional republic? Or is it weak, pathetic, and unprincipled?
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
On January 20th, Trump will be inaugurated once again as the President of the United States.
The theme for this year's Martin Luther King Jr. holiday.
Also on January 20th is so-called Martin Luther King Day. Now, while Trump is giving his speech, I'm sure he's going to invoke Martin Luther King and talk about how great of a man he was. The problem with that is King was no conservative.
Undergoing a radical redistribution of economic power.
In fact, most of the things that King advocated for were actually hostile to America, not pro-America, contrary to what you've learned in your public schools. So why is it that so-called conservatives insist on placing MLK on this pedestal? Trump isn't the only one.
Goes against everything Martin Luther King has ever told us.
The Reverend Dr. King famously said,
I have a dream that my...
I have a dream speech, right? One of the great speeches in American rhetorical history.
He was passionately pro-Constitution.
As eloquent and polished as many of your favorite conservative influencers and commentators are, why are they so naive to the clandestine and covert nature of Marxian globalists, credulously going along with the propagandized narrative rather than challenging their audiences to not be so simple-minded when it comes to what's really at play?
Nearly 60 years later, radical far-left Democrats are doing everything possible to eliminate this dream through the implementation of critical race theory.
How can you take a stand against critical race theory and DEI and Black Lives Matter when you support the civil rights movement, which is the very foundation on which those things stand? There's another thing that will be happening on January 20th. I will be releasing a project, or at least part of a project, that exposes the civil rights movement for what it really was. The Bible says, do not be taken captive by hollow and deceptive philosophies. This isn't about Republican versus Democrat. The truth is deeper and bigger than that. The question is, are you ready for it?
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am your host, April Chapman, and as you heard in my intro, tonight's topic is probably going to touch on all four of those. We're going to discuss a social aspect, a cultural aspect, the political aspect, and then we'll probably end in the theological. Welcome to everyone in the live chat. So glad to see so many of you this evening. I don't want to belabor the point because this topic is sensitive in nature, and we're going to be doing a deep dive, not into the full MLK files because those have not been released yet. What we're going to be discussing tonight is the preliminary information that has come out from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's been released, and I'm going to be dissecting a report dated March 12th of 1968. And the purpose of this it's twofold. Well, it's probably multifaceted. For one, the name of my channel is The Standard of Truth, right? And so ideally, we don't want the show to turn into some salacious platform that just attempts to talk about all the juicy and sexually perverse things that individuals may or may not be involved in. That's really not what this is about for me. I have been on a journey for the past couple of years, and I've been questioning a lot. And a lot of those questions stem from once the Lord saved me and corrected a lot of my theological inaccuracies, things that I believed that the Bible taught that they didn't. Something happened on that journey. While on that journey, not only was I interested in truly understanding the Bible and what it taught so that I could have the proper view and representation of who the God of the Bible is, but not just that, I started looking at history, things that have happened in the past. I started viewing those things from a biblical lens and questioning many of the deeply held presuppositions that I once held. Well, unfortunately, I know it's uncomfortable for many. One of those things has been the topic of not just the civil rights movement, but the key players in that movement, who they are, and did they accomplish what they set out to do, and are we better off today? Well, overwhelmingly, if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, you now know that I no longer hold the civil rights movement as this shining star and beacon of light, that had it not been for the gains of that movement, I would not be here today. I actually challenge that narrative, and I understand why people have that narrative. They're just like, well, you could still be sitting in the back of a bus. Well, I'd like to push back against that for a number of reasons, but not only that, all of us have the propensity to have idols, things that we elevate and celebrate to a level that was never intended for us to revere in such a manner. We're all just clay, like clay pots from the dust, dirty and sinful, and none of us are more or less better than the next person in the sight of God, because we're all sinful, right? We all have a desperate need to be redeemed and to have our sin atoned for. However, it is one thing to revere our histories of it's one thing to revere history and our historical figures from antiquity and have like just level of respect for them. It's another thing for you to just flat out lie to me, right? And try to gaslight me and force me to bow the knee to someone where I'm like, I don't think the outcomes are as great as you are leading us to believe. And then furthermore, all well-meaning adults who are well-adjusted should be willing to have what they believe challenged. And I think that's why so many of us are struggling to grapple with, right, the civil rights movement, who those key players are in that movement, and then looking and saying, you know what? We were lied to. And then there's just some of us out here just know we're not willing to go along with the lie anymore because it makes you feel good. The truth shall make you free. And so what we're going to talk about tonight are some things that have come out. And I understand that many people are like, well, I don't believe the FBI. You're free to have that opinion as well. But the thing about it is, when individuals in your inner circle and individuals who are still alive today and individuals who were alive during that time were echoing these sentiments before this report came out, at some point, everybody can't be lying. I'm just saying. So, housekeeping. Go on and like the video or dislike the video. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people who dislike and who unsubscribe, but that's okay. You know why? Because what God has for me is for me. And we're going to cross over 100,000 subscribers with or without you. So you might as well just go on and join the party and keep the party going. Speaking of which, I am planning an in-person event to celebrate our 100,000 subscriber milestone. I am projecting that I will hit that milestone before March of 2025. So if you're in Metro Atlanta, or you in Birmingham or Huntsville or Florida or North or South Carolina or Tennessee, I am hoping that when I announce it, that you will come and join me in Atlanta. So not only that we can celebrate what God has done in terms of growing this platform, but if the timing is right, we might also celebrate my birthday, because I'm getting old. I'll be 46 this March, Lord willing, and I might as well celebrate it, because all of the symptoms and things that are coming along with that, it's just making me miserable. So I'm just going to celebrate my birth, because the other things that come along with the age are just nothing to call home to mama about. So let's get into this content. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. What I've done is I've imported the PDF for all of us to see, and there's some key areas and components that I want to touch on first. I've linked this PDF in the description box, so you're free to pull it up at your own leisure. And many people are saying, this is worse than we thought. And believe it or not, I wouldn't say that. And the reason why I'm not saying that is because There have been a number of individuals that I am connected to that have done a deep dive into a lot of this information already. You've got Chad Jackson, as you saw the trailer to his most recent film that's coming out in April. He's been talking about MLK since probably Uncle Tom too, and this film in particular is going to shed some light and just look at some historical inconsistencies to help us move forward into the future and to do things a little different. You also have Vince Everett Ellison, who happens to be a fan of the show and a friend of the Chapman family, and he happens to be my client. If you have not subscribed to the Vince Everett Ellison show, you are missing out on a treat, because not only is Vince funny and entertaining, like he ain't got good sense, I'm just gonna say that, but the man knows his history and he cross-references everything with primary sources, and he is a source of information, historical information that you can trust. He has been on Tucker Carlson. He has been on with Charlie Kirk. We were just down with Patrick Bet-David at Valuetainment for the election, and he is a key figure in this fight that you need to know and that you should be listening to. So a lot of the information in this report is not information that was new to me, because it had already been introduced to me by Mr. Ellison. So here's where I want to focus on tonight. I named this live stream the truth about MLK and his communist ties. That has been a source of contention for a lot of people, and they don't. First of all, I'm convinced, and this is not a put down, this is just saying the truth. A lot of Black people do not understand just how destructive and damaging and just bad communism is. They hear the term communism, but they have no concept of what that means for them as Americans and just living under the liberty that we've experienced, even in spite of Jim Crow all of this time. We just don't have a concept of communism. And then another term that really just gets lost on Black folks is Marxism. They have heard the term, they've heard that accusation hurled at MLK, and they're just like, okay, well, what does that mean to me? I don't even know what Marxism is. So let me first define it. I want to first define it. In summary, Marxism, it is a social, political, and economic theory, and it was developed by Karl Marx. I need you to catch up in terms of go research who he was. But it critiques capitalism, right? And it critiques capitalism as inherently exploitative, arguing that society is divided into classes. You've got the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Bourgeoisie is the ones who own the production, right? And then the proletariat are your workers. Think worker bees, right? Well, Marxism advocates for the abolition of private property. So that means all of you out there who own your own home and you own your car and you may own a barn or a boat. Under Marxism, you don't get to own any of those things. I know you worked hard for it. I know you saved for the down payment and did all of those things. But under this economic and social and political system, you would not own your home. There would be no such thing as private property ownership. Not only that, but it is also advocates for the abolition of the establishment. It advocates for an establishment of a classless society through revolution. This is why you got all them pro-blackity blacks always crying and hollering, no justice, no peace. What we don't realize is that Marxism is already here. And the social or experiment of the civil rights movement actually accomplished what it set out to accomplish, which is not what you think it was supposed to accomplish. You thought it was just about getting you some rights. No, the goal of the civil rights movement was to turn the Black American community into an entire faithful voting bloc of Marxists in perpetuity, with other Marxists at the helm of leadership. So you think your Congressional Black Caucus, that's who that is, right? So resources are collectively owned. You don't own or control nothing. You will own nothing and you will be happy about it. Who needs a home that you've worked hard for, that you can end up, when you own it free and clear, you can pass it down to your children. No, we don't need that. We need collective economics. It's all about the group. No more of that individual exceptionalism. No, Marxism, you can't have that in a Marxist, communist, socialistic paradigm. Furthermore, here's why Marxism, historically, I would say these days, there are too many people that look like me that embrace it, but I believe they do so in ignorance. Here's why it was disavowed in the West. Marxism has been largely disavowed in the West due to its association with totalitarian regimes. Think communist China or the Soviet Union. None of us want to live like this is the CCP. And none of us want to live on what used to be the Soviet Union. Why? Because this type of political, social, and economic system, it's been tried. And everywhere it's been tried, you know what ends up as a result? You end up with human rights abuses, economic failures, mass oppression, right? We've seen that happen. We've been here before, but for whatever reason, Black folks still want it. Its rejection, Marxism, stems from a preference for individual liberty, free markets, and democratic governance, which contrasts sharply with Marxism's collectivist and authoritarian implementations. Critics also argue that Marxism's focus on class struggle, right, keeping the poor folks constantly full of contentment, perpetually outraged, right? When you have them always mad at what somebody else has, and well, I think that I should have more, and we need to tax the rich, steal from the rich and give to the poor because it's not fair. You see how Marxism has infected you? Yes, that right there. Critics argue that Marxism's focus on that class struggle fosters division, which we've seen happen, and it undermines personal responsibility. You fail to try and to work by the sweat of your brow, which is a biblical concept, because you're like, just give it to me. Everyone, we can just all have the same thing and we can create, right, this earthly utopia this side of heaven. Marxism, dear ones, it is an anti-God worldview, and it cannot flourish in a nation where Christians are overwhelmingly represented, because we're not about to have that. And then two, it goes against everything that this nation was founded on, which is function in your freedom, right? Not live free and die trying. I'm talking about live free or we gonna kill you if you attempt to keep us from being able to. That's my philosophy. Not Tupac's. Or was it Tupac or Biggie? Which one of them rappers said that? I can't remember. Anyway, so that's a quick little summary on Marxism. So with that, let's dig into this report. The part of this report that I'm interested in looking at is right here on this page, the strong communist influence. This dispels the myth that, oh no, Martin Luther King wasn't a communist. Oh no, he wasn't a Marxist. That's a lie. Those are lies. No, we've got evidence, right? We've got evidence that MLK's entire inner circle all had ties to the Communist Party. In particular, one of his principal advisors, you'll see how at the top it's circled, Stanley David Levison. Stanley Levison was ostensibly, sorry y'all, I told you I can't talk, ostensibly only a New York City attorney and businessman. However, he spent the majority of his life and his wealth advancing communist interests. It has here that Levison gravitated to MLK in 1956. So this is a very early relationship. Very early on. This is before, well, Montgomery bus boycott was in 55. So it's right around that same time. It says he had been as dedicated in his support of King as he had been in advancing communist goals. He has actively involved himself in fundraising drives for kings. I'm going to skip down a little bit because it talked about how Stanley Levison served as the assistant treasurer for the SCLC. Now, somebody might ask, why is a communist? I don't think he was assistant treasurer. He handled all the money. Okay, he handled all the money. I think on paper they gave him the title as assistant, but he was funding this and had his tentacles all up and through the financial affairs of the Southern Christian, which it wasn't Christian at all, but it bared that name, Leadership Conference. Why is it communist? This involved and this dedicated to advancing civil rights as a communist. Remember what communists believe. I just told you about this revolutionary attitude in an effort to maintain control and to create a totalitarian regime, all under the guise of we just want everybody to have the same, right? We want everybody to have the same. Now, this aspect I found interesting where it said Levison edited most of the chapters of King's new book. This is at the time in 1968. Where do we go from here? Chaos or Community? In reading this report, it sounds as if King was the puppet and Levison was far indeed the puppet master. If King went right, it's because Levison told him to go right. And if King went left, it's because Levison told him you need to go left. And the report actually asserts that. There's an aspect of this report where it talks about how they were very concerned of King's ability to independently form his own thoughts and communicate the thoughts and ideals of his Marxist handlers. I'll call them that. And so he was coached. He was coached extensively on what to say in front of the press and the narrative. He was very well prepped, and the narrative that he was supposed to present to the public. Here's something that people don't know about communists. If there are individuals in the chat who say, you know, King never admitted to being a communist, that makes him a good communist. If he never admitted or purposely would do things to distance himself from communism and Marxism, is because that's the first rule of being a Marxist and a communist. You can never let on and let people know that that's who you are. That's why it's a subversive tactic. That's how it is. So if you're looking for evidence where he was like, I absolutely am a Marxist, you're not going to find it. But what you are going to be forced to do is to look at the context clues, i.e. his inner circle. Who in his inner circle were communists? And then two, ask yourself, did he know? I don't know about you, right? But nobody in my inner circle are liberals or communists. So if people are like, you know, I know April claims to be a Christian and a conservative, but her whole inner circle are like these real left-leaning, progressive, you know, sodomite affirming Marxists. No one's gonna believe that because everybody who knows me knows that I don't roll in those kinds of circles. I'm not a communist sympathizer or a liberal sympathizer for that matter. I have my worldview. I stand firm in my worldview. And if you connected to me 9 times out of 10, you sharing that worldview too. It doesn't mean that I don't have a mutual respect for individuals who don't think like me. But what it means is you're not in my inner circle if we don't have the same worldview. It's just not going to happen. You're on the outskirts. You're on the outside. You ain't getting that close to me. So here, prior to joining forces with King, Levison everyone knew he led this double life for the Communist Party. He raised money for them. And he handled all of the funds for the CPUSA. And then what he would do with that money is he would use that money to fund his other activities, i.e. the civil rights movement. Now, there's this other individual in King's inner circle, Hunter Pitts Odell, who in October of 1962, King was forced and received a lot of pressure to get rid of Hunter Pitts Odell. Why? The newspapers had already began to expose the fact that that dude's a communist. It can't be denied anymore. And King was like, this is a little bit too much press and smoke for me. So I have to distance myself publicly from this guy, but he never does. Odell's connection with SCLC and his communist affiliations was beginning to be a problem. It says King still tried to hide Odell in his organization until July of 1963, when he accepted Odell's resignation. I put resignation in air quotes because it was merely a formality, but it never really happened, and he only did it as a response to the emotional public outcry. Now, here's a quote that I wanted to highlight. It comes from this close relationship that MLK had with Leveson. And it is quoted by Gus Hall, who was the General Secretary of the Communist Party of the United States of America. It says, quote, King is a wholehearted Marxist who has studied it, believes in it, and agrees with it. But because of his being a minister of religion, does not dare to espouse it publicly. Now, if you're proud to be a Marxist and a communist, why not? Why not admit it publicly? It's because you can't. Remember, this is 1962, and communism, we are fighting it off like we're trying to beat it back with a stick. You can't espouse these views publicly and think that you're going to rise to prominence. So you have to keep it under wraps. Another interesting detail that I'd like to bring up that coincides with this timeline is the fact that we know that MLK attended the Highlander Folk School, which was a known Marxist training camp. It's a school, Montego, Tennessee. He attended there. Rosa Parks attended there. They learned how to be trained Marxists. So are you surprised when Gus Hall, the secretary of the Communist Party, is like, oh, absolutely. MLK is a Marxist. He believes in it wholeheartedly, but he can't say so publicly. Why? Because publicly, remember, he's a minister of religion. Marxism is an anti-God worldview. You can't be a Christian, let alone a pastor or a preacher, and be a Marxist. Now, we see Jamal Bryant has no problem navigating in the two of those both worlds, but he's an apostate preacher, and no one takes him serious. But think back here, MLK is rising in prominence. He's already had the Montgomery bus boycott. For him to come out as a Marxist, people gonna be like, what's that? What now? What you mean? No. And he knows that people would have just disavowed him immediately. So I thought that quote was very, very telling. Leveson also told the Communist Party that functionary that King was concerned about a communist label being pinned on us, i.e. us, him, and the SCLC and all the other civil rights cronies. He says, but that at the same time, he wanted to do everything possible to evidence friendship toward the Soviet Union. In addition, King has been described within the CPUSA as a true, genuine Marxist-Leninist from the top of his head to the tips of his toes. The feeling within the CPUSA at the time was, and still is, that King definitely follows a Marxist-Leninist line. Ooh, that's a Lenin, right? Line. We don't have to like these facts, but my question is, now that you know, even if you still don't believe it, fine. Let's say the FBI is lying. let's look at his methods and his tactics. They absolutely do fall in the same pattern and paradigm as Marxists and communists. Do you guys remember when the little lesbians over Black Lives Matter got caught in that interview saying, oh, we're trained Marxists? Do you remember when they just came out and told you what their methods were, what it is that they believed? They just came out and told you. Everywhere they went, it was chaos. Do you think that was an accident? No. It's about the revolution. It wasn't because Black Lives mattered. You thought that help you? No. That's not what it was about at all. I think it's interesting that the BLM lesbians, right, have something in common with these civil rights icons. Sexual perversion, revolutionary tactics, civil rights. What rights they were fighting for, we don't know, but we do know that they were actually pushing the dismantling of the heteronormative nuclear family. They came out and admitted that that's what they were doing. The difference between the BLM lesbians and this group right here that we're talking about is not much. Have we not seen the dismantling of the heteronormative nuclear family? We've seen that. The whole taking the man out of the house in order for the Great Society program to really work well were the civil rights icon leaders of the time. That was their idea. That was their idea. When they were drafting the Great Society, they went to the civil rights community because they're like, all right, it's this crisis. Patrick Moynihan report is saying, the Black man, we got to put him back in charge of his family. It's a crisis. You see all these out of wedlock births? Black folks ain't getting married. This is a crisis. What are we going to do? They were like, well, maybe we can incentivize them to put the man back in charge of his family. Civil rights leaders were like, no, we can't have that. So you had the Black feminist movement, your Nikki Giovanni's, MLK was right there along with them saying no. And now look around you. We got fatherlessness and broken homes all around. You don't have to like these inconvenient facts, but the results bear out that the information in this FBI report, everybody can't be lying. Everybody can't be lying. And I'm just getting started. We've just established a foundation from here that he was a Marxist through and through. That whole the nonviolent stuff, you don't have to, you can be nonviolent, but it doesn't mean that you can't be an agitator. BLM, they were both violent and agitators, but mostly they did it through agitation. A lot of these marches and sit-ins and boycotts was about agitation, when we could have dealt with and got the results that we were looking for through legislation. See the difference? Agitation, legislation. One of those has the full faith and support of the U.S. Constitution behind it. The other one is just chaos, destruction, and just brokenness, and it creates distrust. You can't demand people to treat you a certain kind of way. You can't demand that. Now, what you can do is make choices and say, oh, you don't want people like me sitting near you? Well, fine. And you ain't got to worry about it. I don't even want to be around you. But instead of us attempting to say, okay, we can make some gains in the area of civil rights by appealing to the Constitution, which is what actually happened in the Montgomery bus boycott, the whole bus desegregation. It wasn't the boycott. It was the lawsuit that was filed in February of 1956. And then in June, they were like, oh, this is unconstitutional. Y'all got to stop that. Problem solved. No boycott needed. No agitation needed. No antics. No laying down on the ground, letting people beat up all on you. None of that was needed. But in the Marxist communistic framework, you got to have that good trouble, right? Yeah, we see you crash jumping John Lewis. Don't get me started, because we focusing on King today. That's what we gonna do. We gonna focus on King. Anyway, Highlander Folk School affirms, we already know that MLK attended there, Rosa Parks attended there. We also know that there were other communists very much involved in this civil rights movement, i.e. Clifford and Virginia Durr. Those are the couple, those two individuals are who paid and sponsored and supported Rosa Parks to be able to attend the Highlander Folk School so she can learn how to be a good little Marxist. She goes there in August of 1955, and what do you know? By December 1st, she's like, okay, I'm ready to sit on the bus and make my statement. It was all orchestrated and planned, just like a lot of the things that King said and did was orchestrated and planned. And we're going to learn about that. Here's another little piece of evidence. We have here, King speaks at a rally honoring communists. If you ain't a communist, you ain't a communist sympathizer, you don't want to have no parts of Marxism because you love Jesus Christ and him crucified, and you understand that Marxism is an anti-God worldview and system, what the heck are you doing speaking for a group of communists? Why are you there? My pastor is not accepting a speaking engagement if the Communist Party of the USA invites him to speak. That's just going to be a no. It's just going to be a no. But on February 23rd, 1968, King was the guest speaker at a rally. And there's a lot of people, y'all. More than 1,000. More than 1,000 people at Carnegie Hall, New York City, sponsored by Freedom Ways, celebrating the 100th anniversary of the birth of another Marxist communist, W.E.B. Du Bois, who was, here they describe him as the famous Negro civil rights crusader, who joined the Communist Party at age 93. Jack Odell, dude from the previous page, the popular name used by Hunter Pitts Odell, was also listed as one of the speakers of this event. So you're not a communist. You don't know nothing about no Marxism, but you giving speeches for the Communist Party. I mean, did you go in there to preach the gospel and tell them to repent and believe? No. You were going there because those was your people. Those was your people. No different. And I'm going to make this reference a lot, and I'm hoping it sticks. It's no different than why Jamal Bryant accepts the speaking engagements that he does. He'll go into churches and spaces that affirm LGBT agendas and baby murder and stuff because those are his people. I'm telling y'all, 50 years from now, folks gonna be walking around idolizing, Lord forbid, I hope it ain't true, Jamal Bryant. When those of us alive today, we already know exactly who that apostate is. They're gonna be doing the same thing we doing now, looking back through the corals of time saying, we seen this the whole time. Why y'all acting like this is news? Former communist advisors. Now, this one I got to do a little bit more research on because I was informed, not today, but a few weeks ago, and I failed to follow up on this information. But Bayard Rustin, who was actually one of the co-writers of the, I think it was I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, live chat. Was it the Mountaintop Speech or I Have a Dream? I cannot remember. But Bayard Rustin, a sodomite, was one of King's close advisors and was very much in his inner circle. It says that Rustin, who was also the assistant secretary of the SCLC, he publicly admitted affiliation with the communist movement in the late 1930s. So he like an old communist. He an old sodomite and an old communist. He was also one of the selected number of observers permitted to attend the CPUSA's National Convention in 1957. King said he had to let Rustin go because of problems arising from his homosexual activities. I don't believe that, but we'll just go with it. It says Rustin has long been so inclined, having been arrested in New York City in 1946 for offering to commit a lewd or indecent act. Rustin was arrested again in Pasadena, California in 1953 for offering to engage in an act of sex perversion of a homosexual nature, which he admitted, and for which he was sentenced to serve 60 days in jail. There's a Netflix movie. Actually, the Obamas did this one on Bayard Rustin, and they talk about Bayard Rustin in such a very formidable and positive light. Why is the former president of the United States, who has known ties to sodomites himself, decide to do a documentary on a civil rights icon who's also known to be a sodomite? Why are we celebrating these people? Why are you the president? Like, why is that on the forefront of your mind? Like, you know what? I woke up today and thought it'd be good to tell the story of Bayard Rustin and how his sodomite activity, we should celebrate that, because he was a champion and what do you call it? A trendsetter of his time. Why this dude in your inner circle? Ain't nobody asking that question. Why the sodomite is in your inner circle? I mean, I know a lot of heterosexual men, and they are not homophobic. But in terms of who's in their inner circle, it ain't gonna be a sodomite. They gonna be like, no, you need deliverance. No. Perfectly comfortable. Perfectly comfortable. Something else I'd like to highlight. These other communists that were very, very much connected to King. We have Lawrence Reddick, Bayard Rustin, as I mentioned, Clarence Jones, and Harry Watchell. Now, March 5th, 1944, Watchell's name was on a list of names whose significance is not known, maintained at the headquarters of the Kings County Communist Party, New York. On the same date, records at this headquarters contained the name of Watchell's wife, Lenora, on a list of newly elected officers of the Bath Beach Club of the Kings County Communist Party, New York. In addition to being on the advisory committee, Clarence Jones, a Negro attorney, is also general counselor for the Gandhi Society for Human Rights, a fundraising adjunct of the SCLC. Why is the Southern Christian Leadership Conference so intermingled and intertwined and has such this symbiotic, syncretistic relationship with communists? Is anybody willing to ask, are these just coincidences and we're just supposed to believe, well, they were in need of money and if the communists want to fund them, let's go? No. You can be blind, deaf, and dumb if you want to. You are free to lean into your naivete. But I'm not willing to do that. I need to look at this information, examine it in light of everything else that we know about the civil rights movement, about King's worldview, and we haven't even gotten to his personal life yet, and then look at the outcomes and say, no wonder the Black community has been turned into a perpetual electoral group of serfs for the Democrat Party. It's because they were trained and indoctrinated by these individuals during this period of time in our history to be Marxist-minded, melanated Negroes in the freest country that exists on the planet. How are you an American and you allow yourself to be indoctrinated with these worldviews and then don't even realize what has happened? How do you embrace communism and socialism? Just give us free stuff. Those are questions that I have. Now, there's an aspect in here we've got to cross-reference about King winning the Nobel Peace Prize. That happened in 1964. He's 35 years old at the time. And he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And Vince Everett Ellison recounts the story of when they are they in Sweden? Where were they? They were, I think, if I'm wrong, I'll retract and correct it. Y'all can correct me in the chat. How you in Sweden? You way clear across the world. There to accept the Nobel Peace Prize. And the idea be like, we need to get some local hoes and get down to get down. Like, why are you doing this? Y'all, that's actually a first-hand account from, if I'm not mistaken, is it Abernathy that details that in his book? I can't remember. But it has been documented that when he's going to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, that, you know, they just had to go get them some hoes from different area codes and just have them a good old time. I'm telling y'all, P. Diddy is probably the love child of MLK and a thought from yesteryear, because the stuff that this man was doing, I'm not gonna get into all the salacious details. You can read it for yourself, but it's not good. It's not good. And the reason why I think Bayard Rustin was kept around and was part of his inner circle, because when he would, you know, participate in these orgies of natural and unnatural affections, there was some cross things happening, and he was comfortable, quite comfortable with having, you know, that sodomite influence, because, you know, he was used to it. That's what I'm saying. Oh, that's the wrong link. Let me fix the link to the PDF. My apologies. I'll get it for you. Give me one quick second. I'm gonna read. I need to edit the link because I probably copied and pasted something. If it takes you to Spirit Airlines, oh yeah, it does. It takes you to a YouTube link. Oh, I'm glad somebody said something. Thank you. I'll fix that. No worries. Where is it? There it is. Give me 2 seconds. I'll get to the super chats. And then this is important though. Let's get the right link in this description box. There we go. No, that's not it. Hold on. I have the PDF right here. Where did I let me see. I'll tell you where I downloaded this from. 1 minute. Y'all doing all right out there? Hold on. Sounds like there's a party in my house, but I think my husband's up in the theater like we at AMC. Here we go. Almost there. Almost there. Gotta get it. There we go. Y'all ready? Here we go. Like I said, I understand that this is uncomfortable information for people to digest. And I don't befault people who are just like, I wasn't ready to hear this. Because it's kind of like if someone told you that, you know, your dad was not your dad, or that, you know, you were adopted, you're not just going to readily embrace that, because it goes against everything that you've been told to believe. So you're going to have a spectrum of emotions. You're going to have anger, you're going to have resentment. You might get outraged at the messenger, like I made this stuff up, or just mad because I have the audacity to talk about it publicly. And then eventually, maybe or maybe not, you might come to grips with the fact that we've been taught to have these idols in our heart, and we've been taught that you owe where you are right now, not by the grace of God working through the providence of time, but that if you don't attribute where you are in life or in this society to this person or this movement, then there would have been no hope for you. And that's just a really unhealthy, unbalanced view to have, right? Like I said, when I hear Christians in particular say things like, you owe your freedom to X, I'm like, baby, you must don't know who I was before Christ, being dead in sin. I owe no man any freedom. The freedom that I have today, both spiritually and in this life, is because God saw fit to enable it to be so. And Christ died for me and purchased me with his blood. The idea that another human we could bestow that type of obeisance or worship to is just idolatrous to me. Because think about it like this. Think about Christians, like the Christian martyrs, who were bound in chains because they dared profess the name of Christ. And they lived in a spiritual freedom that none of us could ever imagine. So much so that when Caesar said, you bow the knee and declare me as Lord, or I'm about to feed you into this Colosseum full of wild beasts, they were like, give me the beast. They were like, give me the beast, because the excellencies of Christ and what he did for me is so much more better and worth it than anything you could possibly do to me down here. So let them eat me. Let's do it. Cut my head off. Whatever you got to do, boil me upside down in oil. I don't care. I don't care. And I think if many of us had the proper perspective and worldview regarding, yes, there were disparities in this country at one time. And even in the midst of those disparities, we still had choices. We could have chose to say, you know what? If in this aspect of the country, this region, they want to discriminate based off of ethnicity, I'm not going to beg these people to like me. I don't want to eat with them anyway. I don't want to sit next to them anyway. If we would have just decided that, oh, you can't force people to like you, so we're not going to do forced integration, but we're going to kind of do what the North did. Was eventually they were like, this is bad for business. We just kind of need to learn to get along. And this foolishness that they're doing down in the South, I need Black people to admit that the foolishness that was happening here down in the South were done by Democrats, and you were still holding on to their dirty drawers for dear life, and you won't let go. That's what I need Black folks to admit. If you want to be mad about this information coming out, that King basically ushered you in the hands of the Democrat Party to support them in perpetuity, and you want to be mad about that, fine. But then you also need to have the same energy for them same Democrats that were behind state-sponsored segregation, Jim Crow, the KKK, and slavery. And since you don't have that same kind of energy, it's misdirected. I don't believe you're outraged. Because if you were really outraged like you claim to be, you'd be mad at them Democrats then, and you'd be mad at them Democrats now that are still keeping you enslaved by ensuring that you don't have a Second Amendment right, a First Amendment right. They want to take your guns, take your speech, don't want you to educate your children, but they want you to keep them in a failing school and still take your money. Like, at some point, I'm trying to understand, when is the outrage going to be placed in the right direction and laid at the feet of the people who are still oppressing you right now? But you don't see it because you still love your master. And so when I'm coming here telling you that you had Jim Crow, and then this was the emergence of the Jerome Crow Negroes, the people who looked like you, who told you that you were inferior, and that the way to remedy that inferiority was to beg white people to love you. You mad at the wrong person, pimp? Learn to function in your freedom. That's all I'm saying. All right. So we had some more communist advisors, and let's go over the communist objectives. The communist objectives. During the early 1960s, the CPUSA was striving to obtain a Negro labor coalition to achieve its goals in this country. At that time, the CPUSA party line was big business attacks on the rights of labor are continuing. In order to defeat this offensive, organized labor, assisted by communists, must launch a counter crusade, which can succeed only if it is based on the united action of the entire trade movement. Also, communists had recognized the error of their ways by proclaiming that the communist program for self-destruction of the Negro in the Black Belt area of the South had been discarded. So, wait a minute. When I read that, it sounds like they were saying, well, the communists at one point wanted the Black community it says self-determination. I'm sorry, did I say self-destruction? What did I say? Let me read that again. Communists had recognized the error of their ways by proclaiming that the communist program for self-determination of the Negro in the Black Belt area of the South had been discarded. The new policy was to seek complete economic, political, and social equality for the Negro with all other American citizens. So that sounds like a really righteous goal and desire to have, right? Here's the problem with that. Since when, in the Christian worldview, are we ever promised to have the exact same thing as everybody else? It is the biblical teaching that you are to be content with the lot that you have, and you are to work by the sweat of your own brow, and you're not to covet what someone else has. Like, this is an anti-God, anti-Christian, anti-biblical worldview. But we still see it today in the form of DEI. Right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, which two of those are oxymoronic. Because you can't have diversity and equity or equality, however you want to put it, because in diversity, that means you're going to have strengths that someone else doesn't have and weaknesses that someone else doesn't have. So I don't know. I think it's interesting that these were some of the objectives and how deep the Communist Party and individuals who were known communists were well infiltrated and inoculated or incorporated into the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Let's see. The other there was some smoke that MLK was receiving because of his stance on the Vietnam War. I'm not really going to get into that. However, I do want to point out that, no, I don't want to go there. Where was it? Let's see. There's an aspect where they said that King was toying around with running for president, but Levison felt that he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. It was too early, and they agreed that he shouldn't run. The SCLC's finances, there was a lot of money coming into the SCLC from a lot of affluent, rich, white individuals that makes you question why. Why were they so interested in this movement? What were they getting out of it? And what did they want from the SCLC? That's something that we need to ask. We have here in October of 1965, Governor of New York, Nelson Rockefeller, donated $25,000 to King through the Gandhi Society for Human Rights, which was another fundraising adjunct of SCLC. You had Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Smith, which is a stock brokerage firm, gave $15,000. Edward Lamb of the Edward Lamb Foundation in Toledo donated stock to SCLC, which has a market value of $6,000. You had a lot of money coming in and out this organization. The total expenses of SCLC for this period, this is July 1st of 1966 to June 30th of 1967, that's barely a year. Realized income of the amount of $901,000. Y'all, do you know how much money that was in the 60s? You have nonprofits operating today that don't even have budgets like that. $901,000. And then it says the total expenses of SCLC for this period were $859,000. This indicated income exceeded expenses by $41,000. My issue is, with all that money, how much of that money did the Black community see? Since, this was all about civil rights and stuff, right? Kind of how you got the National Action Network by Al Ultraperm Sharpton, and the Rainbow Push Coalition by Jesse, I Got Outside Babies Jackson. Like, they raising all this money, but how much of that money is actually realized and seen, and productive things are actually done for the communities that they claim to represent? How much of that money actually goes there? None I don't think any of it does. But I'm just saying. The last aspect of this report is King's personal conduct. And this is where we get into the theological side of things, and where you don't have to like this part, but you got this freak nasty stuff happening now, and it was happening back then. And it's egregious now, and it was egregious back then. At some point, someone has to point out there's a whole lot of inconsistencies between his public life and his private life, and the public persona that we have been told to idolize. Something is not matching up. Something is not matching up. So, with the funds that King received from the Ford Foundation, he held the first of two workshops in Miami, Florida in February of 1968. Listen to this, y'all. To train Negro ministers in urban leadership. Now, I have a problem with that, because Negro ministers didn't need training in urban leadership. Negro ministers needed to be trained in the theological rudiments of the gospel and Christ and Him crucified, and how to preach Christ to a dying world. The last thing they needed was urban leadership. This is where you had MLK and pastors like J.H. Jackson button heads, because King is all about this present world, and J.H. Jackson is like, this is not our mandate. This is not our mandate. We have a gospel-centered, Christocentric focus, and you out here always worried about what somebody ain't giving you, or why you ain't got what you think you're supposed to have, and you causing problems. So he decides to take this money and do these workshops for all of these Marxist, not-minded, apostate preachers. And I'm going to explain to you why they were apostate. It says, one Negro minister in attendance later expressed his disgust with the behind-the-scene drinking, fornication, and homosexuality that went on at the conference. We had a man here with a conscience who was like, these Negroes is nasty. I'm thinking I'm coming here how to, better my community, and thank goodness for the inner testimony and witness of the Holy Spirit, because I ain't got no business rolling with this crew. What the heck are these people down here doing? I'm thinking I'm coming down to Miami to learn urban engagement or urban leadership, and these dudes is slinging pipe with each other, drinking, fornicating. I mean, he's like, I'm good. Y'all nasty. Then he says several Negro and white prostitutes were brought in from the Miami area. Told y'all, hoes in different area codes. An all-night sex orgy was held with these prostitutes and some of the delegates in attendance. So, see, I can't even. Not only are you corrupting that, you corrupting others. One large room had a large table in it, which was filled with whiskey. I guess he was saying, I've been drinking. I don't know. Maybe whiskey's his drink of choice. Hey, I'm just reading the report. The two Negro prostitutes were paid $50 to put on a SMEX show. I'm using that word. That's what, when we talk about it, our kids, we call it, for the entertainment of guests. A variety of SMEX acts deviating from the normal were observed. What do you think deviating from the normal were? Could we be talking about sodomy, maybe homosexuality? I don't know, but it wasn't normal. First of all, this ain't even supposed to be happening here with other ministers. This activity is not new to King and his associates. The whole crew was freak nasty. Bunch of freak offs, P. Diddy freak offs before P. Diddy freak offs were a thing. As early as January 1964, King engaged in another 2-day drunken schmex orgy in Washington, D.C. Many of those present engaged in smexual acts, natural as well as unnatural, for the entertainment of onlookers. When one of the females shied away from engaging in an unnatural act, King and other of the males present discussed how she was to be taught and initiated in this respect. Throughout the ensuing years and until this date, King has continued to carry on his sexual aberrations secretly while holding himself out to public view as a moral leader of religious conviction. We got a whole lot of smoke for Jamal Bryant and all his baby mamas. We got a whole lot of smoke for a lot of modern day apostate preachers who we know are out here living foul and just being real low down. But for some reason, when we hear this information about King, we just like, oh, well, it just can't be true, or I don't want to believe it, or it's okay because I can ride and sit wherever I want on the bus, so it's irrelevant. Like, that's the rationale some people are coming to. I mean, I appreciate the gains and stuff, but yeah, this is kind of messed up. What gains? I've already expressed his civil rights career was sparked by the Montgomery bus boycott, which we now know did not do anything to desegregate the buses, but rather it was the Supreme Court upholding the lower court's decision that determined that segregation on Southern buses are unconstitutional. So for all the political theater and the, we fighting for our rights narrative, you can't even say, well, we get the vote. Sorry, black folks was voting. We were voting. Overwhelmingly, over 60% of blacks in the South were voting. Just like you got black Democrats crying, talking about, if you go to the Congressional Black Caucus's website right now, they'll tell you that a part of their platform is voting rights. And I'm sitting here like, voting rights for who? Because we can vote. We've been voting for a very long time. Like, we have a constitutional amendment that gave us the right to vote. So you're saying, okay, fine, April, I will give you the bus boycott was a scam. But we was fighting for the right to vote. I'm sorry. Eisenhower had already passed some civil rights bills that provided black folks the federal protection to exercise a right that they already legally had. It was your job to show up to the polls with your gun and say, oh, I'm here to vote. And just look at the registrar like, I said I'm here to vote. Give me my ballot. I mean, because you could meet your maker now or meet him later, but I have a constitutional right to vote. I'm here to vote. Miss Millie, I'm here to vote. Now, I know y'all don't like to hear that because you're like, well, it's easy for you to say that. No. It's easy for you to sit back and celebrate the cowardice of a lot of people who did not exercise the right that they already had. Instead, you just want us to say, if it had not been for all that marching and being hosed down with water, that you wouldn't be able to vote. And I'm sitting here telling you that math doesn't math. We already had the right to vote. And a Republican president had already signed several civil rights bills. King did not get you your right to vote. And if you believe that, help you. You already had the right to vote. Now, whether you chose to exercise that right, that's on you. But the statistics, if you look at the Electoral College map and the percentage of blacks that were voting before 1960, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, this dog ain't hunting. We was voting. Now, y'all was voting for Democrats. Why, I don't know. But you can't say you wasn't voting, because you were voting. It's just who you were voting for. You kept voting for your oppressor, yet you were still singing, "We shall overcome." Make that make sense. What in the schizophrenic civil rights that I just... How you talking about we shall overcome? Crying about not being able to vote, and then when you do vote, you vote for your oppressor. The people who say they hate you, don't want you eating in a restaurant, don't want you sitting next to them on the bus. They don't even want you sipping out your water fountain with them. The same water fountain. Mind you, the water comes from the same place. Come from the same place. And I know you like, I lived through segregation. I'm sure you did. But you can't say that you did not have the right to vote. We had it. Now, the opposition that a lot of blacks experienced at the polls, I told you what the remedy was for that. You had the right to bear arms. Why didn't you exercise that right? Cowardice. I know that don't feel good. I am pretty sure I had some ancestors who laid down and took a butt whipping because they chose to be cowards versus like, nope, this is my constitutional right. You're going to have to kill me because I'm going to exercise it. I still love them. They my ancestors. It's not a condemnation. It's an explanation. It's an explanation to help you realize and understand that all of the gains and the celebratory hoopla that you want to attribute and lay down at the feet of the civil rights movement ain't what you really what you've been told ain't really how it is. We have a lot of revisionist history by a bunch of other Marxist-minded Negroes that like to sell you this narrative so that you can pay homage to people who at the end of the day don't really deserve it. They don't. They ain't sacrificed their life. They didn't. Outside of King getting stabbed at one time, the most tragic thing that happened to him was him getting shot. The optics that you see, they weren't beating him up. None of that was happening. You think Stanley Levinson was about to let that happen to his golden boy? No. Surely you just. They weren't about to let nothing like that happen. There's a story of, gosh, who is it? I may need to phone a friend on this one. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I'm like, well, what about, that time when you saw on TV them putting the hoses and sicking the dogs? I can't remember who it was, but that was staged. They went inside a school because they couldn't get any people to participate in protests. And they had them kids come out, and them kids didn't know what they were coming out they didn't know what was about to happen. And right on cue, they come out, here come the hoses. I mean, I should have wrote it down. I'm going to corroborate that story and get my source so I can tell it at another time. But at the end of the day, have we just learned to function in our freedom? A lot of and I'm not saying there were atrocities that happened that were dead wrong. Absolutely. No one is denying that. What I'm arguing is that this is just the tip of the iceberg of information to come down. These FBI files that were supposed to be sealed to 2027, I think in like 15 days or so, more information is going to come out. And we just need to be okay with whatever comes out with about JFK, RFK, and MLK. Like, you just need to be okay with it. You don't have to settle within yourself. Oh, they lied to us, just like they lied to us about a lot of things. And it should force you to say, put no trust in man. Trust God alone. And go live your life. Go live your life. Stop believing everything that you've been told and be okay with questioning everything. That was my overall objective. I wanted to read these papers out loud. And that's what we did. So let's get some super chats. Here we go. Hey, Bob Paul, good to see you. I don't have my alarm today. Let me get it. Hold on. Brother Bob, how are you doing this evening? He says, the parents of the blind man who Jesus healed did not want to be thrown out of the synagogue. Tradition is good until it blurs out truth. Go, April. You probably left that so long ago that I'm trying to remember the context of how it fits. But Brother Paul, I'm so thankful for the support that you show me on these live streams week in and week out. It really does warm my heart because you don't have to show up, right? You could be doing a million other things, but you do. And even when we disagree, you're still always gracious and kind and charitable. So for that, I thank you. I appreciate it very, very much. Big homie Chow. Hey, Chow. Good to see you. Chow says, for there is nothing... Listen, Chow is going to bring the word of God no matter what. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Jesus said that in Luke 8, verse 17. Thank you, Chow. He also says, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. That's really what I need people to understand. I mean, I was watching the inauguration the other day, and they were the news outlet was showing the inauguration, and it was also showing there was this group of Black women who came all the way from New York for the MLK festivities. And y'all, if you could have seen the hatred, these women were so old and bitter. I was like, dang, sis, we need to get you some joy. The news reporter just asked, why are you here today, right? It was real nice about it. And this woman went on this diatribe talking about, I'm here because my rights and all my freedom to MLK. And I ain't going to be here. We ain't here for that inauguration. We're not here for that evil person. We're here for, it was so vile and aggressive. I was just like, yo, sis need a Snicker bar. I was like, it's too early for her to be this angry. She was so angry. I was like, oh, somebody go rub her back. The hatred. And some of the things these women were saying, some of them were nicer than others, but they really was just like, we owe our lives. We owe our lives to King, and we just wanted to come all the way down here just to let him know. I was like, he can't hear you. Jesus can hear you, but King, he can't hear you. Like, it was wild. It was wild. I should have pulled that clip, because this woman, she reminds you of one of them old ushers that take her job way too serious. That she's snatching the gum out your mouth. She don't want to give you an extra program because you lost yours, and she ain't gonna give you another one. Like, she was one of those. I was like, girl, we got to get you some joy. You get your life together. Get your life together. Anyway, sends a super sticker. Thank you so much for that super sticker tonight. Willie! What's up, Willie Doc? Ain't seen you in a while. He said, just popping in to show some love. Keep exposing truth. Hopefully, with the help of the Holy Spirit, people will stop making MLK a deity and follow Christ. I agree. I agree. Some people just ain't gonna never. They ain't gonna go down to their grave. They not gonna. They can't, and that's okay. I got love for them too. Sometimes the blind just like staying blind, and it is what it is. But thank you, Willie Dodd, for supporting the live stream tonight. SR Serum. He said if Jesus Christ was walking the earth today, he would be anti-DEI based on what he said in John 7:24, along with what God said in 1 Samuel 16 through 7. All right, SR Serum. I got to pull that up. Give me a second. You said John 7:24. John 7:24 says, do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment. I may have to give you the star for the day, friend. You get the gold star for the day. I agree. And I don't know why this is so hard for some people to digest. When they hear us say that DEI sucks and it doesn't work and that it's unbiblical, what they hear you saying is that Black people don't deserve a chance. I don't know how you get from judging a person and showing partiality towards someone based on how they look like. I don't know how you get from that to Black people don't deserve XYZ. I don't know how you make that leap. But when I hear the social justicians talk, essentially that's when they hear that DEI is unbiblical, that is how they filter that statement through their illogical people. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. But if you are a Christian, this should not be difficult for you. And then we have 1 Samuel 16:7. I think I know that God judges looks on the heart. Let me just verify it. 1 Samuel 16 verse 7 says, but the Lord said to Samuel, do not look on his appearance or on the height of his stature, because I have rejected him. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. Thank you, friend, for that wonderful exhortation. You are absolutely right. That is the word of God declared to the people for their learning. Brother David, thank you. Brother David says, I'm late. Did the files mention his birth name was Michael, not Martin? It sure did. I skipped that part because I figured that was common knowledge. But it says here that, where was it? His birth name. It does mention that. I read it somewhere and I don't remember where I found that. Let me see if I can find what page I was on. Yes. Martin Luther King Jr. was born January 15th, 1929 at Atlanta, Georgia. His name at birth was Michael Luther King Jr. In 1935, his first name was changed to Martin. Why you wait that late to change your child's name? Like, don't he already know his name, Michael? 1929, he lived with his name as Michael up until 1935. That is weird, but that is true. And then it asserts that he received his AB degree in 1948 from Morehouse. Then he entered Crozier Theological Seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania, where he was one of 6 Negroes among 100 students. He won the Flacker Award as the most outstanding student. So much for all that discrimination. And he was president of the senior class. Wow. Looks like he got along without DEI just fine in the 40s. And received the J. Lewis Crozier Fellowship for graduate study at the university of his choice. So much for that oppression. King graduated from Crozier Theological Seminary with a Bachelor of Divinity degree in 1951 and did graduate work at Boston U and secured his PhD degree in 1955. Thank you. Yes, it does affirm that. Bible discussions with PG. Sister Chapman, could there be a counter argument to say that Black people did not have the support of the local law enforcement? Yes. So in the South in particular, keep in mind, the KKK is the military arm of the Democratic Party. So in the Deep South, you had whole police departments, right? And the KKK was absolutely used to strong arm and to subjugate and oppress and do all kinds of wicked, trifling, nefarious things to people in the South. My argument, though, still stands because we have people who grew up in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s in the segregated Jim Crow South, who, for example, Vince Everett Ellison's father lived in the same community with Doyle, I can't remember his first name, who was the Grand Wizard of the KKK. And he was always causing problems and starting drama with Black folks on who he felt were vulnerable and weak that he could control. And Ivory T. Ellison flat out told him, hey, I see this foolishness that you're doing down here. You mess with me and mine, I'm going to blow your brains out. It was real simple for Ivory T. He ain't never had no problems with Grand Wizard of the KKK because, and I'm not saying this as a foolproof solution that would have never come with any consequences intended or unintended. What I am saying is that whether it's slavery or state-sponsored oppression and segregation, it happens and it's allowed to flourish and proliferate. And it's a reflection of the weak being conquered and overpowered by the strong. It's always about weakness and vulnerability. And when you show weakness and vulnerability, people who are stronger than you will exploit that and use it to their advantage. We had the same thing happen in slavery. Think about it. You have the Civil War, and you have many plantations that were effectively abandoned because all the white men have gone to fight in the war. What did we see happen? Not only did we see some slaves go and fight for the Confederacy alongside their masters, which is crazy to me, we also saw plenty of slaves who didn't get the bright idea to be like, this would be a good time to escape and leave. I mean, master's gone, everybody's dead. What is this little frail white woman gonna do? Like, what's she gonna do? We did not overwhelmingly see slaves revolt in mass. They were hear me when I say this, and I think this is a wonderful question, and I'm so glad that you asked, but we have got to contend with the fact that why is it that we had few slave revolts? We can name most of them. You have plantations with hundreds of slaves on them. And you mean to tell me they couldn't band together and overthrow the master and the overseer and take the plantation for themselves? You want to know why it didn't happen? Because whenever they would try to do that, you'd have a slave-minded Negro go and snitch and tell the master what the other slaves were planning to do. You had that. And then you had some that were like, you know what? Master feed us. He clothed us. I mean, he a little harsh sometime. But for the most part, we got it good here. Why we got to go mess that up? You have Black people who think like that today. They're like, listen, I got my Section 8. I got my EBT. What I need to go get some job skills for to improve my situation? Things are just fine right here. I got my Obama phone. What's the problem? I get my tax credit from all these babies that I'm having. The point I'm making is a lot of this has to do with mindset, and a lot of this had to do with choices. When you deal with a situation where the local law enforcement is heavily vested in maintaining an oppressive system of subjugation toward a people group that is demonstrated that they are weaker, yes, you're going to continue to have that. But there are certain Negroes that even the local law enforcement would not mess with because they already knew we mess with this Negro right here, he gonna come out guns a-blazing, he gonna kill us all. That was the Negro. That bad Negro, they ain't mess with him. They ain't mess with him. They mess with the one that they knew was gonna be, yes, sir, boss. Yes, I know I scratching and none itching. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You sure is right. It's an explanation. It pains me to look back through the annals of time and just have to come to these conclusions. But how else do you explain slaves digging ditches and ramparts for the Confederacy? They weren't whipped into doing it. They wanted to do it. Read Booker T. Washington's autobiography, and he will tell you of how during the war that there were slaves from his plantation that went and buried massive valuables in the woods so that the Union Army wouldn't come and take it. They guarded that plantation with their lives. And he got emancipation at 9, and he's telling the story of how when we got the opportunity to be free, me and my mama and my brother and my sister, we were out. But there was lots of slaves who went right back to that plantation and worked out an agreement with the master because they like, master been good to me. Where am I going? I was born on this plantation, and I'm going to die on this plantation. There are a lot of slave narratives that tell that story. You have Harriet Tubman saying, do you know, I freed thousands of slaves, and I could have freed a whole lot more if they only knew they were slaves. Why does a woman with a gun, let's keep in mind she had Jesus in her heart and that revolver on her hip or in her petticoat, whatever they wore back then. I love me some Harriet Tubman. Why is it that Harriet, her own sister, would not leave the plantation? She's sitting here like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I've risked my life to come get you, and you won't even leave? Because at that point, the slavery, it was slavery of mind, and it's just like that elephant. That elephant that you've had shackled for so long that when you actually take the shackles off, he's still walking around in a circle, thinking he got that shackle on him, and he don't. And he could leave at any given time. He can leave whenever he want, but he conditioned. He where he want to be. He don't even realize he free. Don't know how to function in freedom. So that was a great question. Bible discussions with PG. I'm glad that you asked and pushed back. Because the very questions that you are asking and probably thinking and ruminating in your mind, trust me, before I bring this content to you, I have already wrestled and looked at this from so many different angles. Y'all, I tried. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm reading this, but I'm like, well, are we leaving room for the possibility that they're like, it's hard, right? We don't have no guns, or if we leave, they gonna kill us. And the opposition is always, so you have a choice, slavery or death. No one is making you pick either one of those. But if we look at the example of the forefathers of this nation who endeavored to tell King George, kiss my grits, we ain't about to be your slave. We have no king over here in America. And if you think we joking, you need to come over here and try us. That's what the Revolutionary War was all about. They were sick of living under the tyranny of a king way across the sea. And they told that joker, you thought we was playing when we said we was coming over here to establish a more perfect union? You thought we was playing? Okay, come find out. And he beat their tail into submission to where they earned the respect. Britain was like, you know what? We're going to leave them colonies alone and just we're going to let them do what they need to do. We done got our tail spanked. They done made it clear that they don't want no parts of us. They don't want a king. They want a constitutional republic. And we're going to go back over here and we're going to have our monarchy situation, and it's going to be what it's going to be. They fought for their freedom. And I'm inclined to believe that the reason why so many Black Americans in this country don't have that same veracity is because they were given their freedom by someone else and they didn't fight for their freedom. That's why they can take it for granted. They have no idea, unless you are a descendant of a Black American slave or former slave that fought in the Union Army, you don't have any connection to what it's like to literally fight to the death for your freedom. And so because you ain't got no skin in the game, you didn't really earn it, there was no bloodshed, it's easy for you to demand reparations, demand that people give you this and give you that. It's all, in my opinion, it's all stolen valor. It's all stolen valor. How you gonna demand reparations when we had several Homestead Acts where they were like, listen, all you got to do, these white folks are crazy. They don't like you. They don't want no parts of you. The war is over. You need to get as far away from these jokers as possible. Go out west. Take this Homestead Act. Go out west. Work that land for 5 years. And you can do that and make something of it. It is yours. You had Negroes that wouldn't do. You know what? It's too hard. The Mormons did it. They were like, y'all don't want us. Our little religion too weird for you. We're going to go out west. They still out there to this day. Generations later, the Mormons out west. We could have went to Texas. We could have went as far west as we wanted. But many of us were like, I'm staying on this plantation with my master. That's a hard pill to swallow. But it's the truth. There were several Homestead Acts, and less than 5,000 slaves took advantage of it. That's not a lot when we had millions of slaves here. And the idea of, well, I didn't have a wagon. Okay, now we doing excuses. Booker T. Washington and his mama and his brother, I told you, after the emancipation, they left their plantation and walked on foot to West Virginia in the cold with shoes that didn't conform to his feet, and they made it. You mean to tell me, so because it's hard, you ain't gonna try? It's just a little challenging and difficult, you ain't gonna try? Just saying. Anyway, I've been on here long enough. My whole purpose was to discuss the communist ties, the Marxist leanings, the worldview. You can't convince me that your whole inner circle and outer circle are all communists and Marxists and you the only one that's not. Ain't nobody believing that. That don't even make sense. And we also know that he was absolutely a communist and a Marxist because all we have to do is look at the results today. We have now created, since the Civil Rights Movement, a perpetual voting bloc of Marxist-minded, melanated Negroes who still can't function in their freedom and who are still crying, we shall overcome. And no justice, no peace. We got fractured homes, broken families, high out of wedlock births, a bunch of crime, dismal educational outcomes. We not winning. So if this is the result of all of that freedom fighting, keep your freedom fighting. Don't fight for freedom for me. I'll fight for myself. I don't want it. We out here fighting for minimum wage or basic income. What? I don't want your basic income. I want the income that I earn based off of my efforts. I don't need you giving me no handouts. I want to earn it. This is America. It is un-American to think this way. But if the goal was to create an exact replica of the Soviet Union in America, then the civil rights movement, they accomplished their goal, because that's exactly what we are right now. That's exactly what we are. So it achieved its desired end. It did. So anyway, you guys, I will probably come back. We'll probably do a live stream maybe on Monday. I'm not sure. It's a whole lot of stuff going on that I want to talk about. I want to talk about how Trump ain't playing with these deportation efforts. And I'm here for all of it. Promises made, promises kept. That's all I'm going to say. And what I want to do when I cover that topic is I want to address the well-meaning Christians who, their heart, they got the baby violin out saying, these people are oppressed and they're being rounded up and sent back. And they won't deal with the fact that they got here illegally and broke the law. Like we're gonna talk about all that. We're gonna talk about all of it. But we're gonna reserve that for Monday. In the meantime, you guys, the only other thing I want to do is I want to introduce to you. I have some new things I want to share with you. Not only are we on the mad dash to 100,000 subscribers, I have some new arrivals that I want to go over. The Standard Home and Living Lifestyle Store, you guys, is my lifestyle brand. I haven't talked about it in a while. I'm just overworked. But these resources are important, and they've been such a blessing to so many people. I wanted to talk about them a little bit tonight. So these new arrivals that we have Free from Shame. Free from Shame is how the gospel redeems our past and pain. And the reason why I selected and chose this new arrival, because yesterday I had an opportunity to give my testimony at the Georgia Right to Life's Silent March for Life. Virgil Walker was the keynote. I did my testimony. I would share the footage with you, but I relegated the responsibility of that recording to a member of my family, and the audio was great. The amount of the audio that we have. But he was so far back, and for whatever reason, he didn't come closer. I'm about this small. So I'm waiting for Georgia Right to Life to release their version of it, and then I will share it with you guys. I shared my public testimony, which was not easy, but it was necessary. I am a very passionate advocate for the pro-life movement, and I've dedicated a lot of my life's work to that. And it's because I'm very, very much familiar with abortion, having experienced that in my past. And so I want to be a voice, not just for the unborn and humanizing them, but to other women who've either walked down that path or who are thinking about it and are considering it. But Free from Shame is a very gospel-focused book study on how the gospel redeems our past and our pain. And this book study, it is a 6-week study, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just make sure it's 6 weeks. It might be 6 weeks, might be less than that. Nope, it's 4 weeks. It is a 4-week study that I believe will bless you immensely. You don't have to have suffered the pain of an abortion. There could be other past hurts, past traumas, just past sin issues in your life done to you or you've done to others that are keeping you in this perpetual cycle of guilt and shame and pain. This book will be a blessing to you. So if you go to standardhomeandliving.com, you can find it in my lifestyle store. It's like $20, but it is chock full, beautifully illustrated, and it will bring you the hope and healing that you've been looking for. This other newbie, I haven't even gone through this one yet, all of it, but I was attracted to it. It's called Is God Enough for Me? Finding Real Contentment in Christ. And the reason why I stocked the store with this one is because as we dissect all of this cultural and political stuff, particularly with the civil rights movement, The whole purpose of this is to move us away from this dependency on personalities and politicians and leaders and all of these people out there, and teaching us how to rely on Christ and Christ alone, and then to find our contentment in Him. Instead of appealing to the government to satisfy our needs and making sure they're giving us what we deserve. Listen, in this life, you ain't always going to be treated how you're supposed to be treated and get what you deserve. But as a believer, you are commanded to find contentment in Christ alone. That's where our reliance is supposed to come from. And so this one is spiral bound. I'm going to open it up right here live with you guys. So pardon the plastic. But this one is spiral bound. And oh, this is gorgeous. Okay. So this one, it is a 5-week study, spiral bound. And I absolutely love this one, y'all. It's got hymns in it. It has end of week reflections. It goes through the I am statements. Y'all, this, come on now. This is nice. I might actually have to go through this with you guys on the channel because it is just that beautiful. And for us to learn that no one or nothing else will satisfy, sometimes you need a good study to do that for you. So this one is available in the lifestyle store. Can y'all see it? There you go. Is God enough for me? And for many of us, that is the question that we need to ask ourselves. With all the money, the stuff, the cars, the clothes, is He enough? Or are we always going to be looking for affirmation and applause and approval of things and everyone else out there? The other new one, this one is Rivers of Renewal, How God Meets and Nourishes You in Spiritually Dry Seasons. This one is particularly special to me. I'm kind of going through my own little challenge right now, just adjusting to the changes, that the natural progression that happens when you get older. Season changes, aging parents, your children going from teens and preteens to adulthood. Listen, it's a lot happening all at one time. And so this 5-week study is designed to nourish those who might feel like you're going through a season where you're like, why does God feel so far off? Why does He feel so far away? Like, I know He's not. I know that, right? I can give mental assent to that fact. However, I'm feeling like I'm going through a spiritually dry season and I am not as connected to Him as I should. I believe that this book study will get you back on the path to reflect and to know that God is going to meet us where we are at our point of need. So Rivers of Reflection is brand new. Y'all have never seen this study before. And then the last one is, this is a new arrival, but it's newly back in stock because it was out forever. It was just out of stock forever. This is Worthy, Embracing Your Identity in Christ. And the reason why I like this one is because we've been talking a lot lately about identity. Struggling to find an identity, whether it's finding, you feel like you as an American in this country, you ain't got an identity. I don't even know how Christians have that kind of struggle, but some do. Whether you are an only child or a middle child, or you the baby of the family, wherever you are in life or in your familiar structure, Worthy, Embracing Your Identity in Christ helps get you back on the path to understanding that your life is hidden in Him. What people think or say or believe about you is of no consequence, right? So this study, I've introduced it in the past. Most of these studies all start with a study on the attributes of God so that you understand the character and nature of who God is as revealed in Scripture. But this one is a 4-week study that teaches you who you are in Christ. If you're in Christ, you are his child. Unbelievers are not his children. They're his creatures and his creation, but they're not his children. You are also an heir of Jesus Christ. You are a slave. Now that one comes with negative connotations, but it's a good, like, you're either a slave to sin or you are a slave to Christ. Doulos is the word. We're supposed to be slaves of Christ, meaning we do what the master says. Now, you ain't supposed to be a slave to the Democrat Party, but absolutely, you are a slave of the Lord Jesus, a bond servant. The Apostle Paul refers to himself using such language. And then fourth, you are a saint. So this 4-week study goes through the identity attributes that the scripture relegates to the believer. And I think this one will also be of wonderful spiritual significance for you if you order it. Once again, if any of my moderators can drop the link to the Standard Home and Living Lifestyle Store, it's standardhomeandliving.com. Find what you want, add it to the cart. I've run into several problems with a few manufacturers, particularly my mug manufacturer. They have discontinued some of my mugs and I'm heartbroken about it and I need to replace them and I haven't yet. But if you've ordered a mug from me in like the past 90 days and either you did not get it or you got the wrong one, please email me so that I can cross-reference that to figure out what happened. And if not, I will just have to send you a brand new one. Now, it may not be the one that you ordered because it got discontinued, or I could just give you a refund. You just kind of let me know which one you want. But I love you guys. I love you guys with the love of the Lord. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting the lifestyle store. And thank you for supporting me. I don't take it for granted that you tune in every single week to show love and support and disagreement. We welcome that too. But I'm going to get on skedaddled up out of here. Oh, no, I'm not. I got super chats. Sorry. Brother David, hey. Brother David said, I'm late. Did the files mention his birth name? Yes. Brother David, it did. It did mention that. I've linked it in the description box. This preliminary report is only about 23 pages. Nothing in the report was news to me. But there's going to be more information that comes out. And as it comes out, we will come in and we will talk about it as a family. But Brother David, yes, it does affirm that part. We also have I Care 777. Hello, how are you? Says God is always on time. This is the year of Jubilee. I don't know. Is it? I didn't know. I was today years old. Thank you. I didn't know. Thank you. I appreciate the support. Thank you for the super chat. I Care 777. Is that why you have 777 in your name, year of Jubilee? Isn't it like the 7th year? I'm trying to remember. I remember when I was at New Birth, we celebrated the year of Jubilee and nothing significant happened yet. We were told that it was, but I don't know. Enlighten me. Brother Derek, hey, Big Pimpin'. Not surprised at anything talked about today. Brother Derek, how are you, sir? Last week, I was at, I think we have some mutual friends. Connie was at a party that Ghetto Sapien was having, Keith. And I don't know how your name came up. I think, did you go to school with her? I don't know, but I just thought it was so cool that like all my people, my YouTube, Facebook people, we all were kind of all together at this gathering. And I did not know you knew Connie. And so I just wanted to say hi to you and let you know that I'm so grateful and thankful for your support. I can't remember if your wife's name, Tanya. Is your wife's name Tanya? Yes. So me and Connie were talking about how you have a Tanya, Chris has a Tanya, and then somebody else at the party had a Tanya too. I don't know. But I just thought that was so cool. Hey, see, there goes Connie. Hey, girl. Y'all, Connie had the silk press laid, honey. It was so good to see her last week. We were at an inauguration party, and we had a good time. Y'all, it was so far though that I didn't even go home that night. It was just too far. We didn't go home. But Connie was watching the game, and we just had a really good time. I think it is so cool that I actually get to meet. These are like real people out here in the YouTube streets. They're like real people. And Connie and I have a lot of the same mutual friends. So I'm just so thankful for her support and for watching. And then Derek, you too. Yeah, that's what it was. You and Derek went to the same school, but you graduated before. Thank you, Connie. I told you I'm getting old. Anyway, and I did not forget, I'm gonna get that black cohosh, Connie. Did y'all see? Did y'all notice? Did y'all notice that I did not whip out the fan once tonight? Did y'all notice that? I did. That's a blessing. I felt one coming on right before I went live. Robert went and got my fan. And one of my daughters, she's been bedazzling everything. She done bedazzled the Vaseline, the lip gloss. Y'all, look what she did to my fan. Let me get this off the screen. Look what she did to my fan. She put all these little sparkly things on it. I love it though. It's so cute. So she tricked out the fan that Mickey got me by putting this on it. And then, y'all, look what she did to my Bluetooth case. Look at this. Can y'all see that? She done put all these little sparkly things on it. So I'm walking around blinged out she blinged out everything. She's just looking for stuff to bling. So she customized this for me, put a little zhuzh on it. I like it, but the Vaseline was a little overkill. The whole Vaseline jar is bedazzled. I said, ma'am, what's going to happen when we run out? Like, the Vaseline's going to run out eventually, and so was the lip gloss. But she wanted to do it. She'll be 13 soon, so you know how it is. Anyway, and my nose didn't itch. Thank you, Susie Q. My nose hasn't itched in a month. It's been at least a month. And I'm so grateful for that. I don't even know what triggers that, to be honest. I don't know. And I don't want to find out. I thought it was she does, Blake. She crochets. She makes like 3D things out of yarn. She makes animals, octopus, you name all of them kids are artsy. I can't draw. I know. I can talk, but now I'm struggling to do that these days. I don't know. The kosher clinician, hey friend, how are you? The kosher clinician says, I always knew King was a communist, but it was more expedient due to segregation than now. Nonetheless, he was a pawn for the New World Order. I don't know. I don't know about it being more expedient due to segregation than now. I don't think it was ever acceptable to be a communist. Like, Americans have always looked at communism with disdain. Like, we were actively fighting against it. And to have someone domestically with such a prominent platform rising to the ranks that he did, knowing that his intent was, in my opinion, nefarious, is a problem for me. But Charlie D said, I'm a troll and I know it. Oh, you're formerly Anthony. Hey, April, your slavery story reminds me of, could we just die in Egypt? The Lord our God already knew. He put it in the book. God bless. Right. It's okay. Listen, I don't mind you trolling. I don't mind. The ENT shop said Sambo was the snitch, not Uncle Tom. Yes, I know. It was the Sambo. However, the Lefticals and the Jerome Crow Negroes, they call the one who was not the snitch, they call the hero Uncle Tom. I don't know why they do that. It's because they just don't know any better. Who knows? But you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. But thank you, ENT. Thank you to Trolley D. And thank you to the kosher clinician. I absolutely appreciate your support tonight. All right, y'all. For real, though, I got to go. I need to go eat. And I'm going to go eat. And y'all, did I tell y'all about Magic Mind? Now, this video is not sponsored by them, but I do have an ongoing brand deal with them. And honey, listen, let me tell you. Now, I had already told y'all about the Magic Mind, the productivity elixir. That's the green one. The green one is what gives your girl wings without the jittery crash. Like, I just get this sustained focus just to keep, just keep on keeping on. And I drink that alongside my coffee. But they came out with the sleep elixir. And the sleep elixir, this is like a lemon chamomile flavor. In good faith, I have to just be honest. It don't taste the best, but it don't taste bad either. It's just got this benign taste that you'll drink it, you'll be like, okay, this is interesting. Okay, and then you'll just keep drinking it because you're just trying to figure out what it is. But it's only 2 ounces. But when you can't sleep and when you are like, I just want to go to bed, I just need to wind down, you don't really care about how it tastes because it's 2 ounces. It's like a shot. This helps you fall asleep faster, improve sleep quality, and you wake up refreshed. So what I started doing is I started doing Magic Mind in the early part of the day with the coffee. And then because after I do these live streams, y'all, I be so wound up. It's like the beginning of a new day for me. I need something to calm down. I need something to wind down. And so I have the sleep elixirs made by Magic Mind. I should have put my link in the description and I did it. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. In case any of you, they are having they are running like a 45% off special. I'm going to grab it just in case you want it. You are not obligated to try this. However, I have incorporated this into like my routine thing. And I really, really like the results because I can't, like at one point I used to be addicted to Red Bull and those will give you heart attacks, right? And I know I'm the health and wellness person, but sometimes when I was just like, I can't stay awake and I would drink a Red Bull, those are just not good for you. This is a plant-based nutraceutical that has amazing ingredients, lavender, lemon balm, valerian. That's what it is. Any of you herbalists or herby type people out there, you know valerian Valerian is funky. It just is. But it works. Like it will put you out like a light. Valerian is the thing that I think is what makes it kind of, you just be like, what is that? They try to mask it, but it just didn't do right. Let me put this link in there. All right, I put the link in and it's right after the description. I'm saving it now, but it's got valerian, chamomile, ashwagandha, which helps me relax. It's got theanine. It also has magnesium glycinate in it, which absolutely helps you relax, especially if you got like restless leg syndrome. It also has passion flower. So if you know anything about herbs, when you put passion flower and valerian together, add a little chamomile in there. I don't know if they have kava kava. If kava kava's in here, that's why it puts you out. Let's see. No, I don't see kava kava, but I do see the ashwagandha. Y'all, I'm blind. Purple plum, lavender, valerian, monk fruit, passion flower. It has chamomile. I said lemon balm and GABA. Oh, it does. Wait a minute. It does have kava in it. Oh, that's it. That's it. That is like the holy grail of lights out good night concoctions. If you know anything about herbs, you know the combination of kava kava, valerian, passion flower, lemon balm, lavender, chamomile. Just one of them typically will do the trick, but you put all of it together, you're going to get some restful sleep. So this is the sleep elixir. Anyway, like I said, I wasn't planning to mention it, but I had 2 of them sitting up here and they work so well. I just wanted you guys to know about it. So you got stuff to keep you up in product, have enhanced productivity and focus in the daytime. And then for nighttime, I need this because once I'm done with y'all be having me all turned up and I just be ready to, I got to lay it down. I got church in the morning. So anyway, all right, you guys. I will talk to you guys later. And are there any questions? Let me see. I know I got a lot of pushback for this one, but it's still so many people here. I might go and take a few questions. Let's see. Okay, y'all in there, y'all out there fighting. I'm not. Why even is this chat threat? What? Okay. All right. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, I am gonna go. I changed my mind. I don't feel like talking to them. My mouth is tired. Until next time, you guys, grace and peace.